Hi everybody, it's Wilderness Woman. Today I'm doing a canning video and we're going to make some sweet corn. Couple things that I forgot to mention in the video, I'll just edit in. I didn't realize the lighting was so crappy there. I'll just edit that in so that you have that information. Again, there will be a link in the video for you to be able to get times and pressure based on what you're canning, what size you're canning, and your altitude. And for those of you that are really new to canning and are afraid of it in any way, I have decided I'll make a basic canning video, a Q&A, and then another short one on how to check your pressure canner. Pressure canners can be dangerous if used incorrectly, but they're highly safe if used correctly. So look for those upcoming videos, and I guess that's all I got to say. Now on to the sweet corn. Hey everybody, today we're making some cream corn. Cream corn is actually very easy to make. And yes, you can it because there's really no cream in it. The reason they call it cream corn is the milky white substance that comes out of the corn as you prepare it. So how I prepare mine is I do not cook my stalks first, my corn ears. I simply take and cut the corn off. And then I run it through a Ninja processor for about 2/3 of it. Of course, you got to add some water to that, and that's not going to hurt. A lot of recipes say add, a cup of water to every cups of corn or something like that. I just make mine to the consistency that I like for the cream corn. Then the next step you're going to do is salt and pepper it to taste. Bring it to a boil. And then, so the next thing you're going to want to do is bring this to a boil. After it comes to a boil, turn it down. If you got a small batch, you can let it simmer 5 minutes, but it definitely doesn't hurt to let it simmer more than that. All you're doing is getting that milkiness out of the corn. And you want it hot because we're going to hot pack it. So at the same time you're doing this, you want to take your pressure canner and you want to get your tray on the bottom. That helps protect your jars from breaking. As you can see, I have one lid in there because it's the old school lid that you have to boil first. The rest of my lids are in a pan. Over here on the cupboard, they say you don't have to do anything with them, but I do soak them in hot water. I bring it to a boil, let it cool down a bit, and throw them in just to soak them. Call me old school, but I just don't trust the fact that you can put them on, although I have done it with some things. And then next we're going to talk about supplies that you need in order to finish this canning process. Okay, you'll notice as I move through these videos, my kitchen cupboards are really small. We have not finished the kitchen yet, so we have temporary cupboards up. You want to have your jars ready. If you boil bath, you will need to sanitize your jars, but when you pressure cook, you do not need to sanitize, as the heat, extended heat and pressure will sanitize for you. You're also going to want to have one of these handy things, because with corn, we need 3/4 inch to 1 inch of head space in our jars. So we got that ready here. You are going to want to have your rings. If you noticed when I put my jars out, I'm using used jars. So of course I have 2 different sizes. So I have my rings ready here. And then here's my lid for my pressure cooker. Make sure before you use your pressure cooker, you always check your seal. You need that seal to be sitting in there tight. If you have signs of wear on your seal, get a new one. They're pretty much universal. Today I'm using a gauge pressure cooker. Next time I'll show you a rocker one. But for today, it's a gauge one. So now that my water's all heated up, I am going to go ahead and start packing my jars. I'll show you what they look like when they're packed. So I'm going to show you one of the tricks I use when I'm canning things that, like vegetables or anything in a water or brine base. If you notice, my jars are all different heights and they're not full. The reason for this is I go through and put an acceptable amount in each jar, and then I go back to see what do I have left. In this case, I have enough left that I can then start going back through and putting in jars up to that 1 to 3/4 inch headroom. If I didn't feel I had enough in here, I'd again go through, put a little bit in each jar, and then I could always top off with water. And again, that headspace is really important because that headspace, proper headspace, is what will allow your jars to seal. Back in a bit. That's a pretty good guess. I have my 20 pints now. I've also gone through and tapped down the substance, took out the air bubbles, and then remeasured to make sure I'm within that headspace requirement. And that's what I got left in my pot. So it looks like the hubby will get a fresh treat. So next up, you want to take a rag. I usually take a paper towel, and you want to go around all the seals and get all this sticky off. If there's anything left on there, or if you have a chip on a jar that you missed when you checked your jars when you washed them in hot soapy water, that jar will not seal. So you either want to pick another jar or just know that that one will end up going in the fridge. I'll be back once I clean my jars. If you've ever worked with corn before, you know it's a highly, highly sticky substance. And all I do is take a paper towel that I've gotten wet with hot water and run it around the rim like this on each jar, checking to make sure that all the sticky is off, so you might have to put a bit of pressure on there, and then making sure there's no chips in the jar top. Okay, from this point, we're going to get our handy dandy magnet lid here. And we're going to go ahead and get this lid out first because it's going to be hot. It's been in here a while. And we're going to go ahead like this. And then we're just going to snag this lid right on here. With on the phone might be kind of hard. We just don't want it to go on the floor. And then we're going to take our ring. We're going to go ahead and screw down our jar. And when you're using lids, metal lids, not reusable lids, you only want to go hand tight. The reason for this is if you go too tight, you won't let the air out to form that seal. And if you go too loose, you're going to have a mess. Okay, as you can see, I've got my first layer in my pan, and now I'm going to go ahead and put another layer piece in there. Again, that will help stop the jars from rocking and breaking. Make sure that they don't disturb the seal. If you don't have one of these, you can layer. There's a technique, but you have to stagger over the rings on the next layer. It's not a guarantee. You might have one that doesn't seal or something, but I've never had really bad luck with it. Off to fill the next layer. Okay, so you can see I am at 11 pounds of pressure. My pressure relief valve is up. I have my cap on my back, which we put on earlier. And now it's just adjusting my temperature to make sure we stay at that 11, 12, 13 pounds would be okay, but no more. Okay, so as you can see, I'm hovering right now about 13 pounds. Yes, I have had to adjust the temperature a couple times. At this point, our little release valve is still up, and we still have our cap on the back. We're going to go ahead and shut off the burner. And now, word of caution here, do not open the lid. Part of that canning process is continuing to let this go until it cools down. It will take more time. If you're tired now because you've done this at night, you can go to bed and deal with it in the morning. It's not going to hurt it to sit there. But do not open the lid until this little valve here goes down by itself. I've had it take 15, 20 minutes, and I've had it take an hour or better. It depends how hot the contents are, how much you have in your pressure canner, what your pressure's at. So at this point, just relax. It can wait till morning if it's the end of the day. Come back and check it in a while and see where it's at. Sometimes you'll hear it click down. It will like click because it goes fast. Other times you won't even hear it because it's just going to drop down real quiet. All right, our pressure is falling. We've quit hissing so much. As you can see, there's a lot of condensation around that valve stem. And we are at just a couple pounds of pressure. So it won't be long and that valve stem will fall right. Okay, I didn't catch the valve dropping, but it took about another 6 minutes. And now the valve is down. It's going to be time to release the lid. But before you do this, make sure you read the caution. Okay, I've opened the lid, and as you can see and maybe even hear, the contents are still very hot. You're going to want a tool to take these out with. That tool looks like this, and you're going to want to put them on the cupboard. Now, if you're in air conditioning or any counter space that's cold, you want to shelter that counter space or you'll crack your jar. Our counter space is old and soft, kind of squishy stuff. So it will be okay for heat. However, I'm going to let my jars just sit here for a while because I don't want to melt the surface of my countertop, which I actually did once. Okay, so I've taken my jars out of the pressure canner, and looking at the lids, you can tell that some, like this one, have already sealed, and some, like this one, have not sealed yet. Right now, looking at it, the majority of them have already sealed in the canner. In fact, as we were sitting there and just letting them sit for a few minutes, we heard quite a few pops right as it was. What you're going to do now is just take your jars and let them rest on the cupboard overnight. Get them all to seal. Believe me, when you get up in the morning, if you're doing this at night, they will probably still be fairly warm to the touch, not hot. And at that point, you will want to take your rings off, wash your jars and lids down, and check to make sure there's a seal. Now, the way to do that is to just, after the ring is off, grab your jar by the lid, and it should stay on, along with looking for the little seal mark. The new lids don't show that seal mark as well, but you can tell this one's bubbled up, and this one doesn't have that bubble. It's there, it is recessed, but it's really hard to see with the new lids. Usually I'll try and at least snap the rings a little loose if I'm working with something sticky, sugary, or starchy, because otherwise in the morning those lids might be stuck on and I'm kind of weak. I can't always get them off. So there it is. Okay, so our cream corn is done for the day. The dogs are disappointed because I didn't drop anything because they actually ate a bunch of the corn cobs earlier. They thought they were kind of cool bones. I have managed to loosen the lids a little bit on the ones that had sealed. At this point, only one jar has not sealed. And I have one jar in the fridge that we'll have to eat up in the next day or two because it didn't fit in the pressure canner. And after you wipe them all down, you're going to want to take a Sharpie. I use a Sharpie to write on my lids. And the reason I do this is, in case you didn't know it, you can take rubbing alcohol and you can remove that Sharpie down the road and you can actually reuse those lids so you can vacuum pack food. You do not need a new lid to vacuum pack food. I have never tried reusing lids for canning. Some people have. I actually did buy some reusable lids with the old rubber gaskets like Grandma used to have. I'll try experimenting with that and see how it goes down the road. And you're going to want to write on there what it is and the date. Canned goods, as long as the seal stays, says they're good for 12 to 18 months. I have heard of people eating them longer. I guess in a worst case scenario, as long as that seal was there, I might try it. But usually we get through ours where we can get it done in that 12 to 18 months. So enjoy your cream corn.